Well, hello Disc Golf family, and welcome back to T-Box Media's coverage of Taupo-nui-a-Tia Classic, North Island Disc Golf Champs, presented by Discmania. My name is Jake, and joining me in the combox, Mr. Henry Pearson.
Jake, a pleasure as always to join you in the commentary booth on this occasion to watch talents come together from around the country here in Taupo for the North Island Disc Golf Championships. Players will tackle two different courses across 3 rounds, and we start today with the first round at the Taupo Golf Club, a temporary, very long and challenging 21-hole course, and the boys will tackle this in what are some formidable conditions. Sunny at times, but also some showers to contend with. And what a card we have for us today on feature card, Jake.
Yes, this is the third stop and last stop of the New Zealand Majors. All the other ones have been played on golf courses as well, so the players here should have a fair good understanding of each other's games. First up on our feature card, Max, coming over from Belgium. He's on NZDG, and what a player to have in New Zealand.
A very talented player and a bit of a long bomber, so it'll be awesome to see him flex his muscles here. Levi Stout joins Max on feature card, the highest rated player in New Zealand, all the way from Invercargill.
And coming up from MA1 and from the South Island, Sebastian Falconer. Haven't seen much of him in the MPO division and on lead cards, so it'll be a bit of a test for the young man.
And to round out our feature card, a man known to many around the country, Watkinson, the 2022 New Zealand national champion, coming off a pair of second places in the 2 major championships taking place so far this year. We move into hole number 1.
So here we go, 171 metre par 4. This is a feel-good hole to start with, something that you can just unleash your arm on. What you want to do is pump a drive out somewhere between 100, 120. Just don't get tangled up in the 2 trees. Give yourself a bit of level footing, and then the upshot doesn't present itself with too much difficulty. The only real trouble I'll see the players will have is if it gets too windy or it's a bit showery out there. However, it's one of the players I think will be trying to get birdie on.
Indeed, a pretty reasonable hole to kick the day off with, and all of our players here will be looking to secure a birdie to begin with. Maxime leads us off with a Discraft Force in hand.
I've heard a lot of people talking about how Max throws his force and how he really gets after it, so interesting to see his form here.
Nice low penetrating ball flight. He'll be in a great position there, roughly 60 metres out from the basket. Levi, an exceptionally talented player. He's heading to the US in June and July of this year to compete at Junior Worlds.
So I haven't played a lot on cards with Levi, but lately, just from seeing the results, he's been struggling for a little bit of form, so I think he'll be looking to turn that around and put himself on lead card for the round 2.
Yeah, a couple of slow starts from Levi in the last 2 majors. His first rounds have really set him back from the pace that's been set by the leaders, but he's come back with some very strong rounds. Sebastian, that's not the best way to start.
Bit of nerves on lead card, filming.
I think Sebastian's been on a few lead cards or chase cards and feature cards in his time, so maybe just a bit of a misrelease in what might be a little bit damp conditions at this stage. Jay hungry for a win. He's come very close in both the South Island and National Championships this year, second in both, so we're looking for the elusive win.
Yeah, it's a touchy topic. Jay right there in both South Island and National Champs, so it's almost something you didn't want to mention to him on the day because you didn't want third time lucky, but I'm sure he'll be put that out of his mind.
Sebastian well up there, pin high, probably a bit too long to have a reasonable look for birdie, but still in a good position. Yeah, Jay had a one-shot lead at both the South Island and National Championships going into the final hole of the event and found OB on both occasions. So, bit of a heart-wrencher, but he should be very proud of himself for putting himself in a position to win on both occasions. Levi hangs a forehand very wide. That's a beefy disc. Could be a RPM Kiwi, maybe a Hui.
Look at Max. He just looks so dialed in, focused.
Very sharp with the all black, isn't he, and the shirt tucked in and the golf pants, and setting a new standard for
something
fashion on the course, which we're not accustomed to that often down here. European flair.
I like it. I do feel like you have to be playing at a certain level of golf to wear that kind of fashion. Maybe if I showed up with looking like that, it might be a bit off colour.
Well, another way to look at it, Jake, is that you just fake it till you make it. So you could turn up looking like a superstar like Max is, and eventually, by acting it all out, you'll become as good as a golfer as Max is.
You've heard about buying discs to make you better. Maybe just buy better clothes. Levi tapping that one in there for a birdie.
And Levi shows us how to do it on the card. Max as well, with a short birdie look to kick off his North Island campaign. And if I recall correctly, Jay and Sebastian will settle for 4 on the first hole.
You don't want to jinx those short putts.
Yeah, that could have been a really early case of commentator's curse, couldn't it? But Sebastian ensures that I don't cop the blame.
And there we go.
We move on to hole number 2. Hole number 2 is a par 3. It's a very long par 3, 134 metres, probably playing slightly longer. Players merely have to just navigate these bunches of bushy trees in the middle of the fairway, throw something over top of them. A hazard area is marked to the left of the green, and an OB green is marked to the right. Very few players in the field will be able to reach this green in one and give themselves a look for birdie, but if any, Max, Levi, Sebastian and Jay are probably the pick of the lot.
Wow.
Max soars a force up towards the circle, and that is
parked.
Exceptional.
Wow. I feel like your whole breakdown might have made it just look easy there.
Max made that look very easy. Levi with a halo destroyer. A little bit wide. He might test that OB green. He does have the distance for it to get there, but it pulls up. Now Max is travelling here as part of the production crew MDG, our good friends, who are also covering the North Island Championships. And from what I understand, was at one point in time a 10-20 rated player competing regularly on the European circuit, but is obviously focusing his efforts now on the production side of things. He and the MDG crew travel the world to cover events like this. So our pleasure to have them here alongside T-Box Media team and Taupo.
And I think just for New Zealand disc golf, to see those overseas players come over, and even those younger players like Levi and Jay, sort of earlier on in their career, to have that experienced player like Max come over and just show to them that, you know, that they can compete on that kind of level. I think it's awesome. Levi giving that one a bid from deep.
And Jay from a similar position. Yeah, you make a good point. It's great experience for young guys like Jay and Levi to play alongside stiff competition in Max. It's been some time since we've had international influence here in New Zealand disc golf. Justin Workman was probably the last notable overseas name to challenge for the lead in a number of events here in New Zealand. But now that COVID constraints are no longer a thing, it might be a new thing to have more international talent come and enjoy what New Zealand has to offer. That was to clean up par, I think, wasn't it?
I was just about to say, Jay Watkinson, I never see him miss putts from inside the circle, and to see him airball one, that's a rarity. He'll be a little bit frustrated in himself.
Well, a bit of insider knowledge for you, Jake. Jay has, between the National Championships, played 2 weeks before the North Island Championships, changed his putting grip. He had been putting with a fan grip for the duration of his career up until 2 weeks ago, and has just switched to an Eagle McMahon style grip where the pinky is tucked into the rim, and he found that gave him a little bit more control in practice post nationals, and so this is his first tournament really committing to that grip. So perhaps a couple of early jitters with the new grip in hand.
Wow. Certainly I feel like this hole played a little bit more than 134 meters. I feel like it sort of played in the 140, 145, but maybe that's just my noodle arm speaking. But here we go, moving on to hole 3, equally as challenging. Sorry, 153 meter par 4. This played as a par 3 last year, which no one reached. This year coming in as a par 4. Really the only danger is pushing it a little bit straight on the golf green on the right, or hyzering out to the left. You want to get as far as you can, as the approach will be blind down over the hill. And yeah, I think this is another hole that all the players on the card will be chalking up as a one that they want to get, so they don't lose some strokes on folks.
Maxime will lead us off after a stellar birdie on hole 2 with another force in hand, and he's put that on a pretty good line, I think.
Wow, he leans on that force, doesn't he?
And that's position A really on this hole. So we're sort of starting to see the weather perhaps making a little bit of a turn. It had been intermittently raining up until this point in the day, where the boys teed off at approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's flirting with the OB, and it does go OB.
That OB is tricky to find on a skip shot with the OB hard against the fence. He must be just OB. Sebastian with a low drive.
Gee, that's wide as well. Settle. I think Sebastian might have pulled up in that first or second cut of rough, which is a very lucky break.
Before the round, Jay was telling me how he's only had about 3 or 4 bogeys in the last couple of rounds he's played. So to take a bogey now, he'll be wanting to bounce back.
Uh-oh.
He'll be challenging the OB as well.
Oh boy.
And definitely finding it.
He really did hyzer out quite early on that shot, and so now is in a challenging position to get up and down to save his par.
There is a little bit of wind to speak of out there, but really I don't really think you can blame the wind for these shots that the players are throwing here. I think they're just a little bit errant.
Nice comeback. That'll be a short putt to save 4. Wow.
Maybe Sebastian just trying to get a little bit cheeky there. He'll have a danger putt looking down at the basket.
Great shot from Levi from after the OB errant drive. He'll likely save his par, and Maxime now with prime position, poised to get up and down for a birdie 3, and just a jump putt required from such a short distance. That is such an advantage over the field, don't you think, Jake?
Absolutely. That much power on a golf course, I think it really, really plays to it. If you can throw 130, 140, wow.
Jake, you were playing in the event as well over the weekend. How did you feel about the course that was put on at the Taupo Golf Club?
Yeah, so there was a few changes between last year and this year. I feel like the changes that were made were all good changes. I enjoyed them and it made the course. Oh, Jay, that's the second one in 2 holes. Maybe I put the commentator's curse on him just by telling us how good a putter he was. But yeah, the course was a little bit more enjoyable to play. I felt if you had 100 to 120 meters of hyzer power, you were going to play okay. You were going to be fine. Some of these holes, better to approach as a two-way player, forehand, backhand. But overall, 120 meter hyzer play was the go all weekend, really. Wow. Back-to-back bogeys from Jay Watkinson. When is the last time you've seen that? But here we go, we move on to hole 4, par 5, first par 5 of the tournament, 255 meters, a little bit of a different hole here. What the players will do is try and land as far as they can out onto the island between those 2 tee pads. And then what that leaves is about a 40 to 50 meter upshot to try and land on the second island, which they will try and progress as far as they can, which will give them a low ceiling upshot to this guarded pin. OB surrounds the pin. Eagle is in play here if they want to go for a roller, or you can do ear shots.
So many different ways to play this hole. Maxime, rightfully so, starts one out nice and wide, looking to hook up into the centre of that first island. Sit down there.
And it sits.
That is the perfect spot as the rain begins to set in.
He'll have a decision whether he wants to go for the pin or he wants to lay up.
Levi opting for a lower line. He's skirting with that left hand side, however, but does find himself in a safe position.
Our lead card really challenging that OB here.
Sebastian with absolutely no concern for the changing conditions, still rocking the polo, and throws his Horizon DD1 dead centre.
Yeah, he comes up a little bit short there. I think he's just playing for the birdie 4. Jay looking to bounce back after 2 bogeys.
And that'll be a T-bird, colour glow T-bird in hand. Looks a little high, he'll want that to drop, and that'll be safe as houses in the middle of the island. So all 4 of our feature card are safe, at least at this stage, on island number 1.
How much rain do you reckon would have to come down before Sebastian switches to a jacket or an umbrella? Or do you reckon he's just going to be stubborn?
I think it'd be pretty courageous if he was continuing to wear that polo in heavy downpours. I don't think he'd be that silly, wouldn't he? But you never know. Look, we're going to see as the round progresses just how brave this young gentleman is.
He is from the South Island, as you and I are too, so it made a different stop down there.
Yeah. Goodness me.
Asking for it to get left.
And it did. That lot of trees is in the second island, so he's safe. Well, look, Levi's from Invercargill, and he's gone very sensibly to the rain jacket, a lightweight rain jacket at that. So perhaps showing maturity beyond his years, Jake. Levi only, I think, 16 or 15 years old at the time of filming.
Max couldn't possibly wear a jacket because he would cover up his nice shirt.
Oh, Max doesn't have license to because he already looks just like a stallion, doesn't he? This is an ambitious play. That's a force, and he started it very wide, perhaps looking to hook up, crash into the trees near the basket.
Wow.
Is that? Oh, it's spat out.
And did it roll in? And it hasn't come back in.
So it's surely hit those trees that are inbounds, but then popped out of bounds. I actually don't know the ruling there. What happens in that?
Interesting where they give him the place, whether they deemed he crossed or he hasn't landed in bounds. They've obviously given him safe and then rolled out if the others are already shooting first.
Indeed, because otherwise we would have seen him play from the drop zone in the middle of island number 1.
Wow, that could have been a massive turn of events if they didn't rule he came in bounds and he had to tee from the front side of the first island.
I mean, this hole can really get away from you. We saw a very large range of scores posted on this hole, from birdies and even an eagle look from Matthew Masters in MA1 to 8s, 9s and 10s across all divisions from MPO through to MA2.
You want a hole separator? This is your hole separator for scores.
Jay will be pleased to bounce back from his last couple of holes with a very easy tap and birdie here on the par 5.
I suppose that's fair. The tree looks like it is in bounds, so it looks like it probably did cross and hit in bounds and then roll out. I suppose benefit of the doubt in this situation has to go to the player. But I did not even consider that as an attackable eagle option, the wide hyzer play. But I suppose when you got power like Max, things like that come into the equation. Sebastian. It was a hard bid, but I just don't feel like he gave it the kind of run that he was looking for. So our players here just all walking up to tap out. Interesting to these scores as they come out. Jay with the birdie. Sebastian, better be safe than sorry. Dry your disc off. You do feel a little bit silly sometimes if you just take things a little bit casually and you hear the doink sound. If it's happened to you before, then you probably take your time with those short ones again. So we come back to the action. Hole 5, par 3, 125 metres. Very challenging par 3, but one that those bigger arms can get. So the drone's going to fly down the straight gap. However, I think most players with the power are going to shoot out to the right hand side and aid to hyzer in towards the basket. The straight line challenges OB left the whole way down and risks hyzer out. OB long, OB right. However, pin is sitting right there for the birdie too.
And as the ground gets a little more sodden, the possibility of hyzer skips when approaching this green increase, so making this hole even more challenging. Jay starts it wide. That might be a cloud breaker too.
Skipping him. How far is that? Just outside circle? Max certainly with the power to get there. Wow. That thing
really bucketing down now, isn't it?
That never got off hyzer, and it stays in.
Levi crushing on another Halo Destroyer. This one looks quite wide. It'll have to scoot back left at the end, and oh my goodness, it does.
Wow, that's pin high. Yeah, I think the difference there, Levi got his to flat, whereas Jay and Max never got off hyzer. Sebastian also going with the hyzer the whole way. And I was going to say he would have ended up beside Jay and Max. I think he's safe.
A bit lucky to stay in, but it probably deserved to. It was on a good line. Jake, did you ever consider any other line other than that wide hyzer play on the side?
Well, I've seen a few players take the straight line. I think they were just playing for par, but no, I think if you're going to take the straight line, either you throw something like a stable mid straight down the pipe, or you throw a forehand. And I just opted for the hyzer play, as it was. I felt like it was the safer option. How about yourself?
I didn't consider anything other than the hyzer. That straight play is certainly looks quite nice from the tee, but with the OB left, it's hard to trust one's disc to stay on that line for so long.
I think the risk reward on this hole, just for me, it just wasn't there. It was an easy 3 or a maybe a 1 in 6. I hit that for birdie. Maybe 1 in 7.
Sebastian said everything we needed to there. That was a bit of a brutal spit out from Levi. And Jake, you make a good point. Half the field here walked away with a par. Just 1 birdie on the day. Ethan Stout. He's a left-hander too, so he might have had the advantage of coming in from the left-hand side with a backhand. And 30% of the field with a bogey, and then a couple of doubles or worse. We move on to hole number 6. Hole 6 is a par 4. It's 148 metres. Players have to contend with a Mando here on the left, where the gentleman is in the white t-shirt. They'll play a high hyzer out into the left-hand side of this fairway before shooting up to a basket poised on the right-hand corner. The entire right-hand side of this hole is OB. Players can get aggressive if they wish and try and cut off more of the fairway by throwing over top of the OB should they wish, but at such short distance it seems perhaps a little unnecessary.
Yeah, players can opt for the low hyzer, or they can go high over the tree that you see in the front. I think all players on this card have the power, but it's just what they choose to do.
Jay leading off. This will be a Star Destroyer, maybe a Wraith. That's very far right though. It's going to have to hook up a tremendous amount, and I don't think it's got it.
Wow.
He's gone out of bounds quite early there, Jay.
That was a misfire from Jay. I think that was straight misfire. Max on a similar line, but you see he released on a lot more hyzer and I think a bit more height. And yeah, that is going to make the hole easy to play.
A perfect drive from Max. Levi again, Halo Destroyer. And a very similar line to Max's with enough hyzer out of the hand.
Wow. And he'll be even closer than Max. I think how Levi gets his distance, he likes to get the disc a little bit flat, whereas Max is just a power player. I mean, his disc never gets off hyzer the whole time, and it's just power. Whoa, Sebastian going very wide and asking for it to come back.
He's asking a lot, but
1 metre in.
I don't know what on earth was going on in the background there. That was an almighty shout from somebody. Did you hear that?
I think it was an ace on the next hole, actually.
Ah, that's right. Who was that got the ace? It was from Wellington. I've forgotten his name.
It's not going to come to us right now, but if you know and it's you, leave a comment below.
It was Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan, that's right, yes. Well done, Jack Ryan. So Jay going with the more direct line approach, and Sebastian following in his trails.
Oh no.
Oh,
So he's gone out of bounds pretty much just in front of him. So this is going to be a very similar, it is almost exactly the same shot as he just threw. That looks like it's got a bit more cut on it though. Keep going. Hook up. Wow. Oh my gosh.
that is 2 meters for being absolutely disastrous.
Well, you'd think if he goes OB there again, he's pretty much throwing the same shot for a third time. Ooh, that was a big pull from Max, but what was that, a mutant? It was too.
Pushing a little bit deeper than he'll like. He'll be about 7 or 8 meters long. Levi with just a chipper. Oof. So Sebastian, thankful just to be on the green and putting finally. Needs us to clean it up. Oh, good putt.
What a save. After 2 OB strokes, Sebastian gets up and down from 110 metres to save his 6.
Effectively only having 3 shots and taking a 6.
Yeah.
Oof.
Maxime off to a particularly sharp start. He's 4 down through 6. And has played very tidy golf other than that 1 OB stroke on the par 5.
Jay Watkinson trying to get back to par.
Weird par.
And with that we move to a par 3, the 7th.
Here we go, hole number 7, par 3, 102 metres. Feels like it plays a little bit shorter though. The pin is just sitting right there. Players will play a forehand or very popular turnover righty backhand. No real danger to speak of. It's just try and put your disc close. I wouldn't think there'd be too many 4s on this hole unless there's some 3 putts. But one of the holes that a lot of players again will be trying to get. Max going the turnover backhand.
Wow, that really did fight out that disc. It must be, looked like a Discmania disc, maybe a splice even.
Yeah, it's strange. You're throwing a very stable disc.
But knowing how stable splices are, that goes to show Maxime really can put a bit of oomph behind his throws.
Levi's just holding that line a little bit, but coming up a bit short. Jay looks like he's going to throw us the forehand line.
That's too much. I think the wind's really going to take that too, because he's exposed the bottom of the flight plate to the wind, which is coming across this fairway from right to left.
Sebastian looks like he's going high hyzer to the right. Wow.
Very similar shape to the shot that he just threw to save his 6 on the last hole. So he's clearly comfortable with throwing a bit of a hyzer bomb.
ECTP. We can't argue with that. See Jay Watkinson really getting some of that towel action going. Henry, how important is it in the wet to have dry towels?
It couldn't be more important in my view, Jake, to relieve one's disc of moisture.
The trouble is when your towel gets wet and you're just spreading the moisture around and it's no good for anyone.
It feels like a pointless game at that point, doesn't it? Why bother with the towel? Why not just embrace the wet, damp plastic?
Oh.
I've gone so far, Jake, to employ a few other methods to reduce dampness in the hand. around the round.
Would you be willing to share those with us, or is it your edge that you feel like you've got over the rest of the field?
Look, they're not trade secrets by any means, but I feel quite comfortable to share with others.
Yep.
So, a chalk bag has been a recent addition to my repertoire in the rain. And in sort of more balmier days, Jake, where the hands get a little clammy.
Yep.
Yeah, the chalk certainly seems to relieve one of inconsistent grip. The other thing I've got recently, Jake, which I'm still testing out, is a product called Grip Dip, which is like a baseball bat pine tar style product. Super sticky, funky looking thing. Anyway, we'll talk about that more in a minute. Hole number 8 is a par 3. 103 metres, it plays slightly downhill. Players navigate a low ceiling off the tee, and then a reasonably wide open fairway before being greeted by a few guardian trees as they enter circle 2 at this green. It's a reasonably straightforward hole and a bit of a relief before we embark on several par 4s in a row beginning at the 9th. A good opportunity to secure a birdie and maybe get one back on the course before we move into some tougher holes.
Well, there you go, folks. Only real danger, I think, is coming up short and hitting this initial gap, which Max doesn't do. He gets through. Looks like he's ripping on something quite overstable. Wow. And puts himself just outside circle.
So coming back to grip enhancers, I haven't really gotten the hang of that Grip Dip product just yet. Are you employing anything other than a dry towel at this rate, Jake?
Well, I've my only experimentation methods is different dry towels. Sometimes I'll try a chamois, or sometimes I've tried the K-Market 5 for $2 towels, which I can't recommend to anyone.
Why not?
Well, when it rains I play poorly, so maybe I do suffer from clammy hand syndrome sometimes, and I might be investing in a chalk bag.
Is that a you problem or a Kmart problem?
To be fair, it's probably a me problem.
Right, okay.
But I do feel the towels aren't as good as some of the other quality towels you might get around.
Right,
like,
I see. Okay.
Like a Discmania towel or something like that.
It sounds like you're verging on scapegoating here.
Well, I'll blame the discs, I'll blame the weather, I'll blame anything else aside from my own throwing.
Oh,
Can't be that.
fair enough. I mean,
So no one in real good position here for the birdie, or maybe a few long bids, and Max still to come. Really challenging hole though. I mean, the trees all around it offer quite a low ceiling as you approach the green, so I think it's a really hard get. How did you play on this one, Henry?
not too shabby. I think I had a look for birdie on each round, but nothing really that close. Everything was sort of
Look at
C2.
that stance. That man does yoga.
Oh boy. All that stretching for not a lot of ground gained in the end. But certainly shows his athleticism, Jake.
I think he did that just to prove a point.
Oh boy. Well, Maxime had been off to a particularly strong start, and a 3-putt from the edge of circle is one way to kind of derail the momentum for the moment.
I think it's good. I think he was getting a little bit too far in front of our feature card, and it sort of just brings everything closer together. Speaking of scores, Henry, are you a score checker?
Not at this rate. I have become prone to it in a minute, but maybe we'll catch up about that in just a second.
Here we go, hole 9, par 4, very challenging par 4. What players would do is obviously try and hit the initial gap and get through. Big distance required. There is another hazard play that is about 140 to 150 metres up the fairway that players will have to try and clear on their second shot. They'll throw over and they will try and approach the green. Most players will try and throw something going from a right to left position as the basket's tucked behind this pine tree that you're seeing in front of you. Really challenging par 4. Probably, in my opinion, one of the more challenging holes on the course. A lot of people are playing this for par, I think. If someone gets a 3, well done.
Just before the break, Jake, we were talking about whether you and I are one to keep an eye on scores as the round progresses, and I was just beginning to say that I'm not really the type of player just yet to keep up to date with scores. I find that if I focus a bit on my own game, I'm less inclined to drum up nerves or anxiousness about how I sit in relative to the field, and seems like I can keep a better level head without looking at scores. Are you of the same opinion?
I've toyed both ways. I'm a score checker. It sort of keeps me focused on what I need to do for the round, and I don't really feel like it affects my play too much. I like to just see where everyone's at. Max getting hung up by that last tree. I think he stayed up in the tree. So he'll be short. He'll have a decision whether he goes across in 2 or he lays up. But knowing Max, he's probably going across. Sebastian trying to opt for the layup play there, but throwing it a bit wayward. He'll be really pinched off from his second shot.
Maxime also opting for a layup, but that's scooting quite a way left. Actually, I thought he was in a different spot. He should be in a reasonable position there to have a look at the basket.
Yeah, Max playing pretty sensibly. I did not, and I found myself smack bang in the middle of the hazard. Jay with a look at going across in 2.
He's quite a way back here from the hazard, so this is going to have to be a pretty reasonable tonk into the wind as well to get over everything, and he's put it on a great line, carving out of it at the end. Oh no. Well, we don't see a graphic that is OB, which is strange because I thought that whole area was considered OB, or hazard rather.
That could be why. But it's interesting to see. Maybe they haven't actually seen where he's just landed and they're just going to wait and see at the moment.
Levi with a very similar play to Jay, and that is a great position to be in after 2 on this hole. Not many players will be there this weekend, even in good conditions. Oh no. Get off it. There's a little path that runs through the middle there.
If he landed on that path, to give you some idea, that path is about 1 metre wide. It is not a play, but I was wondering if anyone would land on it.
There's roughly 100 metres of hazard from right to left, and Sebastian has found the 1 metre of it that isn't hazard.
Speaking of metres, Jay is probably about 1 metre into the hazard. And that'll be to save his bogey 5. Is that a look for 4? Was I
it?
think that was trying to save his par.
Right.
So it's a very tough hole. I mean, if you're taking 5 on this hole, you're probably not losing too many shots.
What a birdie.
as Levi just takes a birdie, I suppose.
That's making strokes on the field. You're right, Jake, this hole played the hardest on the day. A par 4 that played exactly one stroke over par. Levi, one of only 2 birdies on the day, along with RPM's Jackson Sullivan. More than half the field took a bogey, and about 25% took double or worse.
Were you one of the statistics that added to the bogey or par, Henry?
Well, I hate to say it, Jack, but I was at the bottom end of that statistic. I took a double bogey on this hole after a magnificent drive, and then shanked it into one of the trees sitting in the middle of the hazard, and then didn't get up and down from the hazard. So, not my best move.
That's how the best double bogeys are taken.
Right. How about yourself? How'd you go?
Just average,
Right.
and then putt for a bogey.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not too bad. That's the same as what the field goal, frankly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Given this is a 21 hole course, we do get to enjoy one more hole on this side of the coverage before seeing the 11 holes remaining on the second half of coverage.
Replay there from Levi.
An exceptional putt. And we move forward to the 10th. The second of a long stretch of par 4s in a row, this at 206 metres. Players will just have to get around that tree in the middle of the tee block off the tee before placing it nicely up into the fairway. The real challenge in this hole comes at this point of the hole where a double mando comes into play. We're proceeding directly through the middle of it now. Once you get through the double mando, you'll proceed to a green that is underneath the low-hanging branches of some character trees. This hole has a reasonably wide range of scores on it from birdie to bogey, but it all really depends on how well you place your tee shot. Levi leading us off with Halo Destroyer, and that looks a little bit left, Jake.
Yeah, being a little bit left is not too bad. I think it opens up the hyzer approach, but I think that's a little bit further than a little bit left, and he'll really have to probably settle for par here. So just as our players are teeing off, I'd like to take this opportunity to just say please subscribe to the channel. We at T-Box Media just really appreciate seeing our subscribers numbers go up, and it just means a lot to us and for all the funding that the course designers, course directors, and even the Taupo Club sort of give to T-Box Media. So your support is appreciated, to be sure. Max leaning on his force again. Wow, how straight does he get that force to go for that long?
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? He's very wide there though on that angle, but he can hum that thing. Oh goodness me. Well, that's the one tree that you want to miss, and he's now pushed behind this other tree, but it looks like he's far enough left that he should have a reasonable crack at getting up into the landing zone. Sebastian's round starting to get away on him just a little bit. He's come off a double on the previous hole and is now in way back behind the group after playing 2 shots.
And he's still only 2 shots back of Jay after playing what might be considered a poor start to the round. It's the kind of course though, I mean, holes can slip away on you and your score can not change, or you can get the odd bogey here and there, and before you know it you're even through 10 or 1 or 2 over par. Jay just turfing that one a bit. I think he was going for a bit of a low worm burner shot, but yeah, just grabbing the grass.
Maxime not as far left as I thought he was going to be. He's actually in quite a good position here to drive something in low, skippy, and that'll be his splice. What a skip sit down there though. He'll have a good look from just inside the circle.
This is a good graphic to illustrate how low that ceiling really is, and and how much you do have to rely on that ground play and just getting that nose angle of the disc right, so you do get that flare skip as you've seen with Max. Henry, are you playing the skip shot approach on this?
Yeah, look, I was playing a RPM Kahu up into the mouth of that double mando and then proceeding to drive a low hyzer RPM Tui, skipping off the pine straw up into the green. And it worked out quite well for me. I had a couple of birdies on this hole throughout the tourney, so pretty chuffed. How about you? How did you feel about the hole?
I'm actually really enjoying these tall players having to take a knee actually through this low ceiling. I mean, me being a little bit shorter in stature, I just standing and delivering. But yeah, I was also going for the skip shot.
Levi going to be left with quite a bit of work there after that unfortunate roll away, and Maxime with a great bird to round out his front 10 at the North Island Chaps. He's set a good pace, frankly.
Yeah, 21 holes on this North Island Championship, so we're going 10 off the front and then 11 off the back. Whoa.
Oh boy, this is going to be a number for Seb, and he's really started to drop off the pace here in the last 2 holes. Jay with a par, also off to a slower pace than we'd expect out of Jay, given how well he's finished at some of the bigger tournaments in the country in the last year.
Levi taking a double bogey, that just snuck right in there.
Well, a very interesting finish to our front 10 here in the first round of the Taupo-nui-a-Tia North Island Disc Golf Championships in New Zealand. Maxime Tanghe leads the way with 3 under for our feature card. Levi following slightly behind at even par, and our other 2 boys, Jay and Sebastian, looking to make up ground on the final 11. Jake, your thoughts from the front 10?
Wow, so that's a very surprising scorecard, isn't it? I mean, a lot of those players, you'd really expect them to light the course up a little bit more. Slow by their standards, but they always finish strong, so join us again on the back.
We'll see you shortly for the back 11 of the first round feature card NPO Taupo-nui-a-Tia North Island Disc Golf Championships. We'll see you in just a jiffy.